talking Memphis wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
We are live as live can be. It is time on Tuesday night, November the 24th for Talking Memphis Wrestling. Here we go, and we're looking forward to the show today as we finish up 1983 and we start year 1984. However, I wanted to start by talking about last week's show. Probably, I think there's not even a probably there, the most nerve-wracking program we ever had in the history of Talking Memphis Wrestling. It certainly was a hard show to do as we were keeping up with breaking news as we announced the death of Jay Briscoe, Alvin Pugh, in a very, very sad turn of events. Jamin Pugh, Jay Briscoe, born in 1984, passed away last Tuesday at 38 years old. Folks, one of the most tragic situations that I've ever been a part of broadcasting. It was in real time during the body of the show last night, and it was horrible, horrible news, a horrible situation, and it's just been a tragedy. Jay Briscoe, along with his two daughters, were involved in the wreck. Jay was killed. There's the picture of his entire family, his daughters, Grace and Jay Lee, his wife, Ashley, and his son, Gannon. It was just an absolute horrific situation. Again, Jay Briscoe is survived by his wife, his two daughters, his son, his brother, and his parents. Appreciate Tanner being on here. My buddy Barry Hayes that celebrated a year yesterday or the day before yesterday of a tragedy in his family, and my prayers and my family's prayers are always to Barry Hay. Sometimes good comes out of bad, and the wrestling community, both the fans, former promoters, current superstars, were involved in a fantastic fundraiser. There's been a couple of different things, but we'll put that information up there if you would please, Adam. It is go to givesendgo.com/pewlove. givesendgo.com/pewlove. So far, as of about an hour ago, $301,656 have been raised. That's $301,656, and that's fantastic. Also, there's another fundraiser going on with t-shirts, and there's a great Jay Briscoe t-shirt available. All you have to do is go shop AEW, and certainly check that out. And there's a great looking t-shirt available, and I don't know, as a matter of fact, I don't know if we have that in our graphics, but there's just plenty of ways to support the Pugh family. And as lovers of professional wrestling, we all are. That family is in need. There's no doubt about it. It was announced today that on tomorrow night's edition of AEW Dynamite, a very special tribute to Jay Briscoe, including his brother, Mark Briscoe will be in action against one of Jay Briscoe's most bitter enemies in the Ring of Honor, Jay Lethal. It's Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, and it will be tomorrow night on AEW Dynamite. Hello to Jeff Frog Wheeler. He's talking about how sad it is with Jay. Certainly, my buddy Randy West. Randy Dandy, love me some Randy West. Randy West is in the house tonight. We appreciate that very much, as we do Tanner and Jeff and Andrew Calvin Jr. I don't know for sure if Alteto's in the house. I was about 20 seconds too late on mentioning Randy West when he was in the house. And this will be a great, great show. But we wanted to take care of some business before we get into talking about 1983 and 1984. And the first thing I want to tell you is last night, and this is just amazing to me. Last night, I watched after our Power Pro Wrestling Watch Along went off the air. I watched Monday Night Raw 30, the 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw, and was very interested in the fact that I might have missed some, but I was looking at the show, watching the show, and I was thinking how many people that were full-time at one time or another a part of Memphis Wrestling was on the 30th anniversary show of Monday Night Raw. And here's the names that I got to: Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Hart, Jerry Lawler, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, The Road Dogg, and certainly, even though he wasn't live because he passed away several years ago, but it was on a video tape of The Ultimate Warrior. We had Mick Foley that was here. We had Steve Austin that was part of video. Just a lot of Memphis wrestlers, a ton of them, was on Monday Night Raw, the go home show to the new 2023 version of the Royal Rumble. And that's coming up, this coming Saturday night on the Peacock Network. So everybody, what's your plans? Who do you think's going to win the Royal Rumble this year? Now, here we go, as that's the graphic of the WWE Royal Rumble matches and premium live event on the Peacock Network this coming Saturday night. I will be the first to tell you, I certainly will watch that. We had a great time with loaded video from 1983. 1983, the biggest money year. The biggest money year that Memphis Wrestling Territory ever had. And I enjoyed looking about 12 videos last week. We had 14 scheduled, but with the breaking news, and we went 2 hours and 40 minutes anyway, we just didn't have time to do it. A big part of the year was the continuation of the Andy Kaufman-Jerry Lawler feud. They had a match at the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum, Kaufman and Lawler. And our first video of the day, we're going to take a look at that right now.
Slapping him. That's got to be a worse indignity than it is anything else to Jerry. Oh, he banged him with that one. Ooh, and as Lawler slips out of the way, he nails the Colossus. Lawler's got him. Hart trying to get the big guy loose from the ropes. And look at Lawler go to work on him. He picks Andy up. He's going to suplex him. He rolls him over for the pile drive. Nope, a body slam.
You fans who started booing and hissing me tonight, don't try that again. Don't try that again. I am a star, and next time I come here, I want you all to get down on your knees and bow down to me. And if I pass you by, kiss my feet.
Yeah,
You
okay,
bunch of slimy hicks from Memphis, Tennessee. You hicks, go and plow the fields and the farms, you little hicks.
Just keep running your jaw, and you'll have worse than you got right now.
Lance Russell said, keep running your mouth and you'll get worse than what you got. We have some video that proves how right Lance Russell was.
The professional wrestling, Andy Kaufman.
Hey. Hello, everybody. Okay.
Bubbling over today.
The new king of professional wrestling. King of wrestling. Thank you very much. Jerry Lawler, you're somewhere in a hospital bed right now, aren't you? You're sitting there and you're suffering. Your neck is in traction. I promised you a year ago that I would get even with you. I promised. It took brains, not brawn. It took brains. The two greatest brains in professional wrestling and the two greatest brawn in professional wrestling. Jimmy, you told me the Assassins were the greatest tag team. You were right. We did it. We all did it ourselves. I was instrumental in putting you in a pile driver, Jerry Lawler. And now, you see, I was not lying.
Mike Mashburn in now. Hey, here comes Lawler. Andy Kaufman sitting down at the ringside. Lawler coming in. Kaufman, Lawler got the fire right at him. The Assassins come out of the ring. Lawler got up behind Andy Kaufman, nailed him right in the face. Pandemonium. They're trying to hold Kaufman down on the floor.
Again, the time on it, 3 minutes, 57 seconds. Get ready. Last week, we had our first hygiene tip from Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman, I think, well known to all the wrestling fans in this area. We've got another tape from Andy Kaufman. Let's take a look at it right now.
Jeff Wheeler asked who was the Colossus of Death, and that was Big Duke Myers, not Frank Morrell. 1983 was a great year. So many great events. In February, Jerry Lawler started booking. He moved to Memphis. Also, Bill Dundee, after 5 years, was switched heel, ended up losing a loser leave town match. Then he was back in October, and then we will talk in a few minutes. At the end of 1983, he lost another loser leave town match, this time to Steve Kern, and Bill was gone from the territory for the next year and a half. But all kinds of things happened, including a debut at the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum on December the 8th for 8,200 people. Was a double main event. One of the matches, the Road Warriors against the Fabulous Ones, Stan Lane and Steve Kern. We had been drawing about 3,500 to 4,000 people, over 8,000 people that week. And Lance Russell came up to me that night and said, "Kid, this will tell you our business will never be the same." I said, "What are you talking about, Lancer?" He said, "Well, Randy, we went from 4,000 to 8,000. We doubled the house, and we doubled the house because two stars from national television, WCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Road Warriors against the Fabulous Ones. And also, the other part of the double main event was Randy Macho Man Savage debut appearance in Memphis. They continued to feud through the month of December, and the second week of December, Randy Savage debuted in a classic appearance. The first time Randy Savage was at Memphis television. Let's take a look right now to the debut of Randy Savage on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
He got a 1 count and then realized that it was a choke. Stopped it immediately. Again, Reaper into the ropes. Draper body slam. What is A-Team? Big, powerful. They've got some moves, too. Draper off the rope. Oh, look out.
Get the camera on me right now.
Randy Savage.
Right now. Hey, get the camera on me right now. That's it, right there. 4 years, baby. 4 years. You know who you're talking to right now? You know who you're talking to right now? The Macho Man, Randy Savage. And I ain't being under no longer, no. 4 years, man. Where's Lawler? Get him out of here right now. Get him out of here right now. Get him out of here right now. You stand back. You stand back, man. Don't tell me nothing, man. Don't tell me nothing, man. Don't tell me nothing. I'm the world heavyweight champion. 4 years, 8 months, 13 days. Get the king out of here.
Come on.
Get the king out of here right now. Get the king out of here right now. Don't tell me nothing, man. Don't tell me nothing.
Why don't you just take it on? And you and Angelo just take off. The A-Team up there ends up with a win.
A-Team has won. Match is ended. A-Team has won.
You ain't never met nobody like me.
Boy, you got that right. I'm going to tell you.
Right there.
Okay, just put it down. Put it down. Yeah. Hey, listen, we don't have to put up with you around here on that thing. Hey, let's take a break. Just go to a break. Take it right now. If you will, just keep on going. Just take it on out of it.
Give me the microphone.
Come on, Randy.
Don't touch me nothing there.
Yeah, please. Just take him on out of here now.
I didn't even know. Somebody! What a moment!
This is our program.
Hey, Jerry Lawler, man. Jerry Lawler. A cage match where you, man, can't come in the cage and save the king.
Nobody wants to come in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you got to, man. No, you got to do it, man. You know why? Picture's worth 1,000 words. No, you got to do it. You know why? Because he can't beat me. I am the best in the world. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. Lawler knocked my dad. Yeah. Okay, yeah, doing the thing. But you know what? If Jerry Lawler's dad was alive, you know what he would tell him? He would tell him not to get into the steel cage with me. Well, he would tell him not to get in. No. He would tell him not to get in the steel cage. Watch it, man.
Now, you said what you wanted to say. I'll tell you something. If you don't get out of this studio, I'm going to call the police in here and get you out of here. That's what I'm telling you. Now, we don't have to put up with this, so we'll get the police down here and they'll get you out of here. Oh, yeah,
Wonderful day. Angelo, why don't you get him out of here? We've got a match set. Picture's worth 1,000 words. A pile driver. Okay, he's on the call. Okay, listen, we don't want anything to do with the police. Let's get him out of here. Isn't that great? That's my son. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that terrific? You want me to get him out? Yeah. Okay. Listen, I'll get him out. Don't worry, I'll get him out. Yeah, go ahead and... I'm proud of my son. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. Come on.
Angelo Poffo counting out for Randy Savage, the Macho Man. Henry Rutledge and the Pink Panther both hit with a pile driver by the Macho Man.
Come on.
One thing, the only thing you proved to me is that when Lawler's not around here, you come in here and jump on a couple of guys like that.
A couple of kids in here.
We don't need any more
him,
macho man around. Angelo, let's get him out of here now because we're coming up. For you, I'll tell you one thing for a living fact. It's just guys like that make every punk around think they can come in and do anything they want to. This guy can't. I'll tell you one thing.
The December 1983 studio debut of Randy Macho Man Savage. Randy Poffo, born November the 15th, 1952, passed away May the 20th, 2011, 68 years old. His brother, Lanny Poffo, born December 1954, he's 68 years old. And their dad, Angelo Poffo, was born April the 10th, 1925, passed away in 2010 at 84 years old. I'm going to give this guy a little ovation. He is from Alabama. Drinking was forbidden in his southern country home. He doesn't drink, never have drink, but he can talk, and boy, can he talk. The star of this program, Talking Memphis Wrestling, is Hall of Fame broadcaster, my good friend, Michael St. John. Now, Michael, so far we're what? I'm 20 minutes into this show and no breaking news yet, but the breaking news is if we have that breaking news graphic that we can throw up there right now. If we can't, we can't. But the breaking news is live in about 2 seconds, which is right now. It's coming off. Michael St. John, everybody.
Oh, Randy, how am I? What am I going to do with you? First of all, I'm going to make one correction, and I want all the folks that are watching and listening in to pay attention. The star of this show, make no doubt about it, always has been, always will be, is the one and only Randy Hales. Randy Hales is the star of this show, my man with a ton of cred. I know for a fact that there are wrestling companies that know how talented he is, that want him to book, but no, he's not quite into that mood yet. But Randy, I want to tell you, I hope you'll be proud of me this week. I watched an episode of New Japan. I watched an episode of NWA online. I watched another independent that I want to say MLI or MI?
MLW. They
MLW.
just recently got a TV deal.
And that's where I watched them. But
Yeah.
and then I also watched Raw. I watched AEW on Friday night, which I had not done before. I watched part of SmackDown on Friday night. And I got to tell you, there is a lot of wrestling out there. But when it comes down to the pure facts that you and I and our comrades here were raised on, there is no wrestling today. Let me repeat this. There is no wrestling today, in my humble opinion, that equals what we watch on this very show each and every Tuesday night.
You know what? I think we beat that to death because the same thing, when you were, let's just say when I was a kid, on Monday night, I watched Gunsmoke. I watched the Big Valley. I watched Bonanza. I watched the High Chaparral. I watched all these programs. I watched all kinds of police shows. It's all the world evolves and changes, absolutely changes. When's the last time there's been a network Western on television on a regular basis?
I couldn't tell you. I do know my wife watches online on the stream a show called Yellowstone.
Oh, I like that show.
Okay.
Have you watched it?
I have been exposed to it. Have I watched it? Yes, because my wife watches it, and if I'm upstairs in the great room in the den where the TV is, right adjacent to the kitchen, I've watched it, and it's a throwback. It's a 21st century version of an old Western.
Yeah, I like it.
but she watches it religiously. And just a side note, Yellowstone bourbon has become a hot commodity on the shelf. It was just a little passerby bourbon, but it has become a hot commodity on the shelf for the last 3 years. I happen to have a good friend that is a sheriff of a local county here in North Alabama that's his favorite, and he was turned on to it because of the show. But that's again, but you're right, Randy, the times have changed, but truly, and I know we've talked about this before, but the degree of what we just saw in the video with Randy Savage and Angelo Poffo, and there's the debut into Memphis. And I might add that just before they went over to Jerry, they had been running independently over in Appalachia. They had run let me see if I can think of these towns: Princeton, Kentucky, Harlan, Hazard, a little town over in, I want to say Big Stone Gap, West Virginia or whatever. I spent a weekend one time going up and filming with them and for them. And I will say this about the Poffos, and I'll say this about Randy Savage. Randy was a very talented man, but he's a very, very smart person. When I was programming KOY and Y95 in Phoenix, he came out there, were part of the WWF show out there, and he spent a whole day with me at the radio station. He was on with Glenn Beck and Timmy Yatrick in the morning, with Bobby Knight in the afternoon. He was on our AM station. He couldn't have been more accommodating. And I really learned a lot about him, having worked a little bit independently with their family, and then about him. He was a very, very bright guy, but he was also very talented in the ring. And you talk about somebody that could live the gimmick and talk a promo. He was doggone good at it. And I think, what we just saw, the little tidbit we just saw, was just the tip of the iceberg as to the career of Randy Savage as it would take off after that.
I want to catch you up on a couple of different things. I realized after I got your text, I failed to paste the link into the email. I didn't realize that I hadn't. So it's my fault that Michael St. John is late, and I don't know what the issue with Chris Ellis is. Pat, I knew wasn't going to be here. Chris, I sent a message, so hopefully he will be on. Last week we had the breaking news, and Adam backed me up here with the graphics. Last week we broke the news that Jay Briscoe, Jamin Pugh, passed away at 5:20 last weekend. It has been reported, and certainly there is a GoFundMe at givesendgo.com/Pugh Love. And as of airtime today, and I think this is amazing, as of airtime today, this certainly the fundraiser, all proceeds go to the Pugh family. It had reached $301,656, $301,656. Great wrestling donations. Chris Jericho donated $15,000. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega $10,000 apiece. Kevin Owens from the WWE $5,000. And Michael, obviously, I know you're out in the community, and to me, this tragedy transcends professional wrestling. This is a father who had posted hours before pictures or video of him helping his 12-year-old and 14-year-old daughter, I think I'm right, 9 and 12-year-old
9 and 12
daughter, yes, do cheerleading
routines.
It was absolutely fantastic. Now, this next picture that we're going to put on the screen, also his wife Ashley and son Gannon is in that picture, along with Grace and Jay Lee. We want to show you, if this doesn't give you motivation for these two little girls to help them out, because their world was absolutely changed forever. Can you imagine? Does this picture, Michael, not bring a tear to your eye? From the hospital in Delaware, yesterday, the two sisters, who's now minus the father, both had been in critical condition, both in intensive care, both on the way to recovery. In this picture, holding hands.
Boy.
Holding hands. GiveSendGo.com/Pew Love. Does that picture, Michael, does that picture not, if you have any soul, any heart in any of us, what does that picture do to Michael St. John?
God, I cannot fathom what the family is going to, but that is just, it's at one side, on one side of me, Randy, it's heartbreaking to see these two lovely little girls. But on the other side of me, I know that God's good grace and the great love of not only their family, but the whole wrestling community. It just brings hope into my heart. But GiveSendGo.com, /Pew Love to make a donation. I just wrote that down for obvious reasons, but my God, I'd heard quite a bit about this. The next day, it really sort of shook me by my eye teeth that he was taking his girls to cheerleading practice, and the car that ran into him crossed the center lane on a 2-lane highway at a rapid rate of speed. A woman that was driving was killed, and head on, he had no chance to get out of the way. It was at dusk. He had no chance to get out of the way. And how many times have you and I been on those 2-lane highways for wrestling reasons, late at night, coming back from Paragould, Arkansas, or from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, or wherever, and had those situations. When we were working in Dallas at the Sportatorium and taking the bus back overnight, there was an incident on the bus where we were all Tojo Yamamoto, Stunning Steve Austin, the whole crew that was at the Dallas Sportatorium that night had loaded up, and we were riding. This was about 2:00 in the morning, and I felt the bus. I was asleep and felt the bus sway, and then the next thing I knew, I heard screeching brakes, and the bus was on the side of the road, and a very shook up driver because someone in a pickup truck had gotten on Interstate 30 right around Arkadelphia, is it Arkadelphia, Arkansas, Texarkana, Arkansas.
Yes.
And we came within literally a foot of being smashed head on. And it shook us all up. I don't think none of us slept another wink that night, but it just, that is a heartbreaking, but at the same time, a uplifting picture, because that these two young girls are going to recover, please God. And the prayers are important, but I think it's very important that donations, and you talk of the big numbers that the pros have made. Those little numbers add up to the $5,
Oh, absolutely.
the $20.
Absolutely.
Adds up a lot. And what amazes me is we're not talking about a major star of a major company. We're talking about somebody who had built his reputation in the grassroots. If it would have been in the territories, it would have been in the territories. But he built it in the grassroots. And I believe, with the exception of AEW, because I think there was something that Warner Brothers stepped in and said they could not do a tribute because of contractual reasons, which I don't understand. But the WWE has come forward. All the wrestling companies have come forward and expressed their love. And it's just, I hate to keep harping on it, but this is a family, a hardworking family, a loving family that could all use our support. And I'm 100% behind it.
Let me bust in here real quick. Tanner asked if there's a PayPal account, and not that I have read, but you could Google it and see. There is also if you would like this great T-shirt, this Jay Briscoe T-shirt, you can go to Shop AEW. All the proceeds for this shirt will go to the Briscoe/Pugh family. So go to Shop AEW and you can check that out as well. And I'm sure, Tanner, if you'd like a T-shirt, I'm sure you can pay for that by PayPal in an easy sort of way for sure. The other thing that I want to say right now, talking about your comments, and it's just the world is the way the world is, and it's politically correct. And obviously, we have all made, Randy Hales have made more than you can shake a stick at, and regrets after regrets after regrets. All you can do is learn from your mistakes, and all you can do is apologize to the people that you offended. Years ago, Jay Briscoe, Jamin Pugh, had a politically incorrect thing that he said on social media.
It was a tweet. Yeah, I saw it.
It was a tweet that he regretted. He is, of all account, a Christian. Of all account, obviously that he believes in God and that he raises his family in a religious area. There was a quote today from Mark Briscoe saying he missed his brother, but he's with Jesus now. And that's the only thing that's keeping Mark going. So whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, we all make mistakes. Now, the corporate entities are so worried about getting hammered about content on their show type of thing. They obviously, apparently, and I listened to the Jim Cornette podcast, and Jim Cornette was trying to find the name of the Warner Brothers
executive. He wanted to blow it up. He wanted to blow it up, Randy.
Oh, yeah, and I was afraid, man, this will just make wrestling look worse if 10 million people threaten to kill executive at Warner Brothers. You know, this is a bad thing. But apparently, and I don't understand the corporate world and that sort of thing at all. However, Tony Khan, who's always been a big fan of pro wrestling, a big fan of Ring of Honor, and wanted the Briscoe brothers on the Dynamite show, has even flown them in to the program, and it's been vetoed by Warner Brothers. Now, I'm sure the networks are hands-on on knowing what the content of the show is. Saying that, they allow GD to be said, they allow
MF
F to be said, but they don't allow a Christian gentleman, a father, a loving father of three, a husband, a son, a brother, by all accounts, just a great professional wrestling and a great person, because of a mistake that he apologized for. He apologized
over and over for, Randy. It's something that he has gone on record on all social media and on television saying that he was sorry for it. It came at a time in his life where his daughters were very young, and he was, trying his best to make sure that they were not exposed to some of the ways of the world of other cultures, which is a protective part of being parents sometimes. He realized the wrongs in his way and he apologized for it. But yet to this day, and in the grave, he is being crucified for this. And that is not right. That is not right.
Now, apparently, Tony, he can't just say, I'm going to do it. He's in business. He can't do that. But apparently, he keeps going back over and over again. At first, they told him, apparently, that Mark Briscoe was not going, and he ain't done nothing that I know of. But anyway, they didn't want Mark Briscoe on the show, and wouldn't. So obviously, last Tuesday night, he would have been in no shape to be on the show. Obviously, his brother just the day before had died. But there'll be a tribute to Jay Briscoe tomorrow night on AEW Dynamite. In Ring of Honor, one of Jay Briscoe's biggest rivals and the current tag team partner of our buddy Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, will be the opponent of Mark Briscoe, and there will be a tribute of some sort a week late, but a tribute. And again, folks, I'm not being a Jim Cornette or Michael St. John and calling Tony Khan a goof or whatever we call him. I'm not doing that at all because I'm thinking it's been out of his hand. But thank God that they're able to do it tomorrow. Watch Dynamite tomorrow for that tribute and to see Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal. And so I'm sure that will be, can you imagine, Michael, what kind of emotional deal that is for not only Mark Briscoe, Mark Pugh, but for Jay Lethal, longtime opponent and co-worker of Jay Briscoe.
I think that, I think that Mark Briscoe is going forward with what he thinks his brother would have done and would have continued the family tradition and the family name and the family heritage of participating in the work that they do for a living, which is a professional wrestler. And when I first heard of this, and I heard about it earlier today, I must say, Randy, and I'm not going to hold anything back, I thought, well, this smacks of taking advantage of a bad situation. But then when I thought about it and started realizing, and I've read a lot, I wasn't all that up on the Briscoes as a tag team. I knew they were good. I've seen them in action, but I was not as aware of their backgrounds and the family involvement of how this is a united family together. And I think probably now looking at it, I think it is more so of Mark Briscoe saying, hey, in honor of my brother, I'm going to step into the squared circle against Jay Lethal tomorrow night. And I'll be honest with you, Randy, I think this Mark Briscoe Jay Lethal match will be one of the best we've seen on AEW. I really think that's going to happen.
Really looking forward to it tomorrow night, AEW Dynamite. We're going to backtrack some more and we'll get back to, we finished 1983. We'll start on some great footage from 1984 in just a minute. But I want you to listen to me. I want you to look at me. I want you to listen, Michael St. John, to these names: Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Hart, Jerry Lawler, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, The Road Warrior, The Road Dogg Jesse James Armstrong, all on Raw 30 live in living color. All people who had one time or another worked full-time in the Tennessee territory. That's impressive. Hogan, Hart, Lawler, Taker, Shawn, Road Dogg. Videotape-wise, you had Austin, you had The Ultimate Warrior, you had Kurt Angle, you had so many people that worked the Memphis territory. Raw 30 years of being on television, and my honest review of that show, and I watched the last hour after this show went off the air last night, didn't do that much for me. I watched the first hour this afternoon, and I thought it was fantastic. It was ad-free. There was no commercials during that first hour. It was their best rating in 3 years. Part of it had to do with no commercials. The other part of it, the big part of it, had to do with the names that I mentioned. What was your thoughts about that show last night, Raw 30, coming from Philadelphia last night?
Well, they had it in the greatest city that they could have it in, because there's no big fans that are more tainted in any sport than in Philadelphia. And they won them over in the first. I mean, the house was fabulous, and they won them over in the first 5 minutes. But that show, and I'll agree with you, that show, that first hour was a rocket ship. But then after that, it didn't do the 8 o'clock hour was okay. It was normal Raw, but that 9 o'clock hour, I thought they would have come back and used some of that talent in a more pervasive way, and they didn't. And that disappointed me a little bit. So I think they probably had had a bingo bango first hour, and they probably had a nice little reception for all those stars afterwards backstage or another location. And, they weren't around for that third hour. And I would have loved to have seen that show ended on the high note that the 8 o'clock hour ended on. So that was sort of my take on it. I'll be honest with you, Randy. The other take I had is you look at Jerry Lawler and people that have aged that are of that era when Jerry was, big time in the WWE and even in Memphis. Jerry Lawler still looks like a young man. I mean, compared to some of those other guys, Jerry Lawler today still looks like he's 15 years younger than what he is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it at all. I want to get right back in, if we can, to some other cards, and we will look at the end of 1983, December the 5th, 1983. We talked about this last week when I read a card, and I wanted your feedback and the viewers' feedback on this card, and it's just very, very interesting. And this took place on December the 5th, 1983, over 8,000 people. The opening match of the night was Angelo Poffo against Nature Boy Buddy Landell. The second match, the Grapplers, which were Tony Anthony and Lynn Denton, against the Jaguar, which was Danny Davis, and Giant Plowboy Frazier. The third match, now I did say third match of a card, third match of the card. This was the match. The Moondogs, the A-Team, which was Don Bass and his tag team partner, Roger Smith. So Moondogs, the A-Team, the Dream Machine, and Pork Chop Cash. This is the third match of the night. The Hill Teams, the Moondogs, the A-Teams, the Dream Machine, Pork Chop Cash, and that was the Bruise Brothers against the tag team of Terry Taylor, Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Stagger Lee Coco Ware, and Robert Gibson. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Michael.
Future star power there.
No, I guess for sure. The fourth match of the night was a U.S. Junior Championship match, Bill Dundee over Rick Morton. The fifth match was Dutch Mantell and Austin Idol against Dennis Condrey and Norvell Austin. The sixth match was the Fabulous Ones, double disqualification against the debut of the Road Warriors. Jerry Lawler defeated Randy Savage by a disqualification, over 8,000 people. Certainly the last card of 1983 was over 7,000 people, December the 26th. That was Randy Savage against Terry Taylor. Steve Kern beat Superstar Bill Dundee in a loser leave town match, and Jerry Lawler against Austin Idol. But that's how 1983 ended, Michael. Your thoughts on that card we just read here on Talking Memphis Wrestling Tonight?
A December to remember. Oh, that's a huge card. And you look at that today, and you look at the star power of that today. I'd hate to come up with a card just in fantasy booking that would equal the star power of that card. That's major. That's major. Now, this was the point with the loser leave town with Dundee. This is the point that Dundee went over to Watts for this was the point of the swap, right?
Yeah, the first time in June of 83 that we discussed last week, he went with you to Chattanooga and was a part of that promotion. That didn't last long. He came back and then ended up switching back heel in October. And then at the end of December, he dropped that loser leave town match. And then he went to Mid-South Wrestling along with Terry Taylor, along with the Rock and Roll Express, along with Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express, and obviously Bill Dundee booking the territory. Al says talent, 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 and that's exactly what it was. And we give you the year 1983, the most profitable year in Memphis wrestling history. There's a subject that's coming up in just a second. I don't know how much Michael is aware of it, and certainly all I was aware of at the time. I was still in college. I wouldn't go to, I would usually work spot shows Friday, Saturday, go to Memphis every Monday. So I would hear the inside news at time, didn't know a whole lot. I will tell you in 1984, it started with Lawler continued to be the booker January the 1st, 84, over 8,000 people for a Nick Bockwinkel, Jerry Lawler match. Again, over 8,000 people. The very next week, over 7,000 people for a Nick Bockwinkel, Jerry Lawler return match. Now, a lot of the success of 83 was based on the 1982 debut of the Fabulous One, Stan Lane, Steve Keirn. Would you agree with me that a lot of the credit for the success of 83 would have been had to be given to, not all of it, but a lot of it, to Stan and Steve, the Fabulous Ones? Agreed?
You know what the Fabs did, and you're absolutely right, but what the Fabs did is they got that younger generation, that younger crowd back involved with what was happening in Memphis wrestling, because Memphis wrestling, let's be honest, was getting a little long in the tooth. They didn't have those good-looking baby faces that all the little teenage girls were going crazy over. And that's what Stan and Steve did, most assuredly, and that was their base of initial popularity. And then as fans found out they were a hell of a team and could wrestle their tails off, then that older crowd just followed. So absolutely, I think that is an incredibly true statement that you just made.
We're going to examine it with my next statement in just a minute, but we will say that if what happened didn't happen, or if we would have known in advance it was going to go happen, the Rock and Roll Express would have never been allowed to leave the Tennessee territory. Do you agree with that? If when Dundee took the Rock and Roll Express, we read this card, so this territory was absolutely loaded. So Jerry Jarrett could afford, because he's a money guy. He had too many, Lawler was using too many people. So Jerry Jarrett was agreeable to let the Rock and Roll. If he would have known on February the 6th in 1984, that was before 6,700 people, and it would have been the last Fabulous One appearance in Memphis in months, because the next day in Louisville, Kentucky, Jerry Lawler fired the Fabulous Ones for basically refusing to do business, for refusing to work 2 matches in a tournament. They did it the week before in Memphis. Lawler absolutely not going to let talent dictate what's going on, even though he knew that he was getting rid of 2 people that was making a lot of money. Now, back in that time, Michael, were you shocked? Were you aware? Were you privy to the inside information? My friend Randy West, watching Talking Memphis Wrestling tonight. Always appreciate that. Randy, I'm sure it was pretty stressful up in the office there, as some of the part of the cash cows leaving. Bill Dundee had lost a loser leave. He was gone. The Rock and Roll Express was gone. Bobby Eaton was gone. Terry Taylor was gone. Now all of a sudden the Fabulous Ones were gone. Your thoughts on that right there, Michael St. John?
Well, I was spending a lot of time on a weekly basis with Randy West back there, back during that time, doing the cards and doing some stand-ups and doing some inserts for the rest of the territory. I was aware when it happened. In fact, Randy was the one that told me what had happened and how it had come about. And it was pretty shocking because, but it comes to a point where the boss is the boss. And I've always been, as a radio programmer, but as a radio programmer and a major radio manager in my life, I have never let the inmates run the asylum. And that is an old cliche that says when your talent, even as big as they are and as good as they are above the law or above your wishes of what you need them to be to make the whole team, to make the whole station gel and work, there's got to be a day of reckoning. And I think Jerry Lawler felt the same way. And, looking back, is it a worthwhile offense to lose that kind of talent? it's a management decision, and whether it was agreed upon or not agreed upon before it happened, I think at some point in time you have to stand up to talent and say, "Hey, you're good. I back you, but you've got to have my back too. It's a two-way street." And obviously, it wasn't turning out that way, and the Fabs were gone. But was it a shocking event at the time? Was I freaked to find out about it? Yeah, big time. It's interesting that this is a point that we hit upon at this point, because so many times, and we've seen this in other sports, when a franchise or a business or a group is successful to an ultimate degree, to the best ever degree, sometimes you see and I don't know what it is about success. It's like, I get laughed at about this all the time because I compare it to Auburn football. Auburn has had some great athletes in their college for years. I mean, you go back, you look at Frank Thomas and Charles Barkley and other sports. You look at the football stars that have come out of there, Carnell Williams, and all the greats that have come out of Auburn. And when Auburn is most successful, the joke around the state, the joke around people that are involved in sports and in college sports, and even among people that watch it, if Auburn football is successful, give them 5 minutes and they'll screw it up. And that's a situation where you've got a bunch of high-ranking alums that basically put a bunch of money into the program, try to pull the puppet strings to make the puppets move. In this case, you have a superstar tag team that was really still just increasing in popularity and increasing in drawing power at the box office. And then all of a sudden they go, we're not going to wrestle 2 times tonight. And Jerry Lawler took matters into his own hand, as a manager should, and said, okay, you either wrestle and fulfill your contract twice tonight or hit the road. And that was the end of it.
One of the things that I 100% agree with is, as you said over and over and over, you can't let the talent and the boys dictate what's going on. Lawler did what he had to do. So I'm not saying that's a mistake. To keep his credibility as a manager and as the promoter and as the booker, he had to do that. I think he did make a mistake, and certainly he made it with 2 great talents, but you can't copy. Even if you're using actually better workers, I think there's not much debate. Jerry Lawler created the new fabulous ones, Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich. Is it a statement you agree with, Michael, when I say Tommy Rich and Eddie Gilbert are better workers than Stan Lane and Steve Kearns? Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, but as a female wrestling fan back in the day would have said, they weren't as young and they weren't as good looking. And
absolutely.
And
they weren't box office as a team. And exactly. They weren't the first either. They were a copy. They were a copy. It wasn't going to work. Again, how much were you around those days of the Rich Gilbert version of the Fabulous Ones?
Well, first of all, they pushed it pretty hard, but it didn't work. And I think once they realized it didn't work, they got out of it. The other, if I'm not mistaken, the other incarnation of that were the Fantastics, were Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. And they were over, but nowhere close to where the Fabs were. And it was interesting to note, and if I'm not mistaken, the Fabulous Ones, did they not go to Florida after they left here?
They went to Vern Gagne. They went to the AWA. Then they went to Florida. Gotcha. Then they came back. It's funny, and we'll get to that in a minute, Michael. They came back when Jerry Jarrett took back over the booking.
Right.
That's what happened there, and I thought that was
money talks and nobody walks.
They're very, very interesting. So in March the 12th, the new Fabulous Ones, Rich and Gilbert, were born. Then in May, Jerry Jarrett took back over booking, and he quit using Rich and Gilbert as the new Fabs, just build them during the regular names as Tommy Rich and Eddie Gilbert. They were one of Jerry Jarrett's first booking moves when he took over was to put a tag team together, because Jerry Jarrett was always a heat booker and always loved him some Phil Hickerson. He put Phil together with the Spoiler, and they were a tag team. They had a Tennessee street fight match at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee with Rich and Gilbert after an angle that I couldn't find, that I wish I could have found, and I wanted to find, because it was a great Jerry Jarrett type of angle and it was probably suggested by Eddie Gilbert. Doug Gilbert, a 10-year-old photographer, was beat up by Phil Hickerson and the Spoiler. That led to some great matches, including this Tennessee street fight at the Mid-South Coliseum we're watching tonight. Michael St. John, Randy Hills, the January 24th edition of Talking Memphis Wrestling.
This one truly is a fight. That's what it's called, a Tennessee street fight. Here to tell you about it, Randy Hales. Randy.
Thank you, Lance. A lot of bad blood going into this match. Phil Hickerson and the Spoiler, with all the stuff about the Gilbert family and Tommy Rich, has come to a head in this Tennessee street fight. Hickerson puts Rich down again. Spoiler going at Eddie Gilbert. You can't call this a tag match, Lance. More like an all-in match.
Boy, I'll tell you, yeah, everybody is in it. And, of course, the whole premise is you start with the clothes on, and the first team to have the outer clothing ripped off. That's it. By then, it's all over with them.
Hickerson going after Rich. Wrist really busted bad. Hickerson, who had the chain a few minutes ago, really put it to Rich. Gilbert on the outside, being choked by the Spoiler. You would think in the situation with this, as evil as Hickerson and the Spoiler is, they have the advantage, you would think.
Get him, Eddie.
Gilbert gets our microphone stand. Look, as a weapon. We better tie everything down around here, Lance, because they're liable to use anything. And he caught him with that stand from the table. Oh, my goodness. Put Hickerson down. Nailed the Spoiler. Hickerson coming up from behind and nailed him a good one. The referee returning the microphone stand. Whoa, look at Rick. Rick, a bloody mess. He knew what he was getting into when they signed the match. Hickerson, once again, who's toughest in this type of match. Rich's hair now soaking with blood. It's red. Now they're taking the action out of the ring. Hickerson pulls Rich out and sends him over to the table. Oh, right in to the announcer table. Tommy fell right on top of the announcer stand. Caught with it, Hickerson, as we back up. Rich, a bloody mess, blood all over the table. Sends Hickerson into the table. Phil sent in, and Hickerson busted open. Caught again. They're going into the front row ringside. Look out. Hickerson busted. Rich going after him. Gilbert drops on the Spoiler.
Look at Hickerson's head. He busted wide open. Who?
Hickerson about as bad as Rich, Lance. Rich right on him. A brawl, nothing less as they come back over our way again. No, atomic knee drop. mask on him. Gilbert going after the mask of the spoiler, trying to take that mask off. Oh, caught him. Rich and Hickerson. Rich fighting Hickerson. Spoiler tries to go for the pile driver backdrop in this no disqualification Tennessee street fight. Anything goes, and Hickerson just went into a step. Rich and Hickerson returning to the ring. Puts him in. Hickerson knocked down to the camera. Man, oh man, when have you seen a bloody mess like this?
And I mean, they are just killing each other. Give and take, back and forth. Look at that. Rich just kicked Hickerson right in the face. And with a boot, the spoiler nails Eddie Gilbert, hit him with that big heel, and goes behind Rich and knocks him down.
The spoiler has Eddie Gilbert's boot. Took it off of Eddie, and he's really pounding away at Rich. Goodness gracious.
Look at Hickerson.
Hickerson about out, Lance. Look at him. Rich gets his boot off. Nailed Hickerson. Gilbert sends spoiler over the top rope.
That boot busted Eddie's face wide open, his right eye right in the eyebrow above it. Look at here, pile driver on the concrete.
Spoiler down, and I'm sure out because I can't see him getting up from that pile driver on the floor. Gilbert bleeding, Rich bleeding. What is this, Lance? As Rich has put on a mask, Tommy Rich has put a mask.
Gilbert, I saw him throw him something. He must have that mask loaded up with a piece of steel or something. Rich standing on the second rope in the corner, and here he is. Wham! Hickerson right down. 1, 2, 3.
A victory! 8-28. A victory to Tommy Wildfire Rich and Eddie Gilbert.
And the people goes banana. Phil Harrison.
Did you see how the kids rushed Eddie Gilbert at the end of that match? I mean, it was like they came out of everywhere right to his side. That's what it's all about, buddy.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Phil Hickerson, currently 76 years old. We never know because it was kayfabe for us. Jeff Jarrett don't know. I'm sure Christine Jarrett with paperwork had to know at one time. No idea, no age reported on Frank Morrell. Eddie Gilbert, born in 1961, passed away in 95, 33 years old. Currently, Tommy Rich, who was born in 1956, is 66 years old. Whoopi D watching the program today, and he said he would love to talk about this, and I don't know what he wants to talk about, maybe the match and our old riding mate, Frank Morrell, but the excitement in the arena. Rich and Gilbert just shouldn't have been the fabulous ones. They were a great, great team, Michael St. John.
You know, you're right, and I think the moniker of the fabulous ones or the new fabulous ones probably hurt them because they were people saw them as what's the word I'm looking for? Not intimidation, but as a copycat. As the original fabulous ones. And they were not the fabulous ones. They were a team of their own. So if they had their own moniker or their own team name or whatever the case may be, would have, could have, should have, probably would have even gone over and above what the fabulous ones had already attained in the marketplace. But Al Tuttle, thank you, buddy, in imitation an imitation of the Fab. So perhaps a misnomer, a misnaming may have cost a lot more draw and a lot more notoriety for Rich and Gilbert.
Very good points. As we're talking Memphis wrestling, earlier we were talking about some of the stuff that's said on television these days. No way in the world would we have got away with some of the stuff that's said on television today. However, some of the stuff that we used to do back in the day, that we did back in the day, that we could play on TV back in the day, man, in this politically correct world that we live in today, boy, oh boy, oh boy, there would be some problems going on. Take us back to 1984. The feud in 1984 was Rick Rude, Jerry Lawler. It all started with the pesky-looking, acting, interfering valet by the name of Angel. She got physically involved in the action, and this was that event at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, Angel and Jerry Lawler. And I don't know if this is a mark of how our society is when it's to violence toward women, but watch the reaction to what's happening here with Angel. Very, very, for these days sometimes, not a politically correct thing to show, but we're going to show it right now on Talking Memphis Wrestling with
talking about with Angel. Take a careful look at all of the action that took place. And Lawler trying to get up. He's on the second turnbuckle. He's on the top one. He grabs the belt. He's got it. Lawler's going to win it. He wins it. 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And now he's wheeling hard. He got Rude, and here comes Angel. Jumps on his back. Rude slams Lawler down, and now beating on Lawler. Hard from behind. Angel driving away at the legs of Lawler. That's better than Rude. But it all stings. Now Rude's got the belt. Hard holding Lawler. Woo! Rude nails hard. And there goes Rude over the top rope. Lawler's got a hold of Angel. Pile driver. And the crowd responds. The only thing I can say is you saw her jump right astride Jerry's back, and of course that provoked the whole thing along with previous incidents in there. Angel is not with us right now. You can bet on that. Woo. We're going to be back in just a moment.
You reckon we could get away with that today, Michael St. John?
Not with the internet and not with social media the way it is. Absolutely not. What is amazing about that, when she took that pile driver, she took that full flat-headed. I did not see that being up a gimmicked pile driver. He came down on her head from the way it looked, he came down with full force.
Yeah, it was a vicious looking.
Let's put it that way.
Vicious looking pile driver. And my point as we intro that, what a pop, Michael. What a pop.
Indeed. And anytime that we're getting into that phase of Jerry Lawler where anything that he did was magic in Memphis. It didn't make any difference. This was post Kaufman. Jerry was hot. Whatever Jerry was doing or was involved with was going to draw money, was going to go over. We were right. We're right in the middle of it, talking about 1984.
Now, after they left this territory, I don't know what in the world happened to Angel. Rude later got married, had kids, that sort of thing. But I would think, and I think Jim Early said on a comment just a minute ago, that Angel was the hottest young lady ever in professional wrestling. Did you know Angel? She was such a nice girl. And man, she was a knockout. Absolutely beautiful, Michael.
Absolutely. She was she was magic. I mean, she had that look. She was also I know on camera she was a lot more verbose in the way she spoke when she spoke, but backstage she was pretty she was pretty, I won't say a wallflower, but she was pretty quiet in the times that I was, in the match or in the arena when she and Rick were working, but she was definitely eye candy for him, for sure.
I think there's no doubt about it. Currently, I will give you an update. This is not a disaster update, a little bit of a current conditions update on the 24th day of January. We'll let Michael in just a minute let you know what's going on in Arab, Alabama, in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It is currently 34 degrees. It feels like 23. There is a winter weather advisory out. There is wind and there is snow. So at 8:16, 34 degrees and snow in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And we go to our Alabama studio to catch the weather conditions there in Alabama. And Michael St. John.
Along the 86th parallel of longitude here, we're not expecting snow. It has begun to rain. Temperature is 39 degrees. We are expecting high winds. A high wind warning has been issued for the North Alabama lakes for the next 36 hours. I hope they don't get too high because you don't like to have high winds when you have radio towers around. But anyway, that's pretty much, we're not expecting any snow. There's a chance we may see some flurries tomorrow night, but nothing to be concerned about. And but it looks like it's going to be wet and windy.
Frank Seaton says it's snowing pretty good in Van Buren, Arkansas. And everybody, this is winter, so if you're receiving winter weather, make sure that you're real careful. And if you don't have to go outside, don't go outside. Rick Rude wasn't happy with that incident with Jerry Lawler and the pile driver. He gets his revenge, and we look at that video right now on Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hills and Michael St. John.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Tojo, Rude and Lawler, what a great feud. But Tojo, let me tell you something, baby. I'm going to bring some white paint over there to West Hill tonight. We're going to paint some hair on your head like I did that little puke last week. I'm bringing the whole first family, and I want you to be there too tonight, Russell.
I'm impressed.
Come on, Ricky. What are we going to do, baby?
We got a match coming up, Rick, here.
Shut up.
Hey, come on now. Hey, listen. Jimmy.
Don't tell me when the match is on. I'll tell you. Now, let me tell you something. I said I had a few things on my mind, didn't I, Lance?
Yeah.
Now, I think it's time to get them off. Give me that microphone. Jerry Lawler, you come out here and you talk like a big man. Jerry Lawler, you come out here and you talk like a big man. You costed me my heavyweight title. You punched out my valet. And now you crippled her up. What did he say my brain was like? What, a BB in a boxcar and a gnat's hinder? Let me tell you something, Lawler. I don't need much of a brain to rub you out, punk. Lance, do you ever have a feeling where you hate somebody so bad? You hate somebody so bad, whatever damage you could do to him can't be enough. I could beat Jerry Lawler to a pulp, put him in a wheelchair, make him a vegetable, and it still wouldn't be enough for me, Lance. I hate you so bad, Lawler. I want to wreck you. I want to wreck your home. I want to wreck all your relatives. And you know what, Lance? Jerry Lawler, you can't wait till Monday night. Well, let me tell you something, punk. I can't wait till Monday night either. I just can't wait. Jimmy.
guy comes out here.
Lawler's got him upset, though, man. He's done everything to him in the world, baby. But I'm here, payback, baby. Payback, and that's what it's about. Come here, Russell. I want you to walk with me over here, Russell. Come here.
Come on, Jimmy. Now, what is all this stuff? We got a match coming up here. Hey, Rude.
Just come with me, Russell.
What are you doing? Rude. Hey. What is he doing, Jimmy?
It's a gray car, baby. It's a gray car. Hey, come here, baby.
Rude, get back in here.
That's the one, baby, right there, Rude. It's the gray one, baby. There you go. There you go, Rude.
Good night. I don't believe that.
There you go, Rude. Busted, baby.
That is so ridiculous, Jimmy. Boy, that's the kind of mentality that you spawn in that doggone thing. He is out there knocking the windshield out of Lawler's car. Oh, boy, that is brilliant. Just brilliant. He tore the windshield right out of Jerry Lawler's car. Well, he's the one that's going to have to pay for it. Uh-oh, here comes Lawler. Get him, Jerry. Lawler going after him. Hey, out there, who was that? Oh, Bundy. Out there waiting on a car, and there's Hart. Oh, that is sick. Goes out there with a ball bat and knocks the windshield out, beat on Lawler's car. Well, I'll tell you, there is absolutely no way to anticipate how low Hart and that first family can get. Lawler came running after him. And they had Bundy sitting out in the car. There's Jerry looking over what's been done. Jerry, who had wrestled earlier on Championship Wrestling in the event that you didn't see it. They got him back out of the shower. Well, okay. Mama said there'd be days like this. Lee took a ball bat and absolutely just shattered Lawler's windshield, beat on the car, walked all over it.
That was in 1984. Rick Rude started his career, was trained in Minneapolis under Vern Gagne. Later on, he wrestled, and he was a part of that trade, the Rock and Roll, Terry Taylor and Bill Dundee. Rick Rude was a green wrestler, and he came to Tennessee, put him with Jerry Lawler, and Lawler was the perfect guy to be in the ring with for a rookie, for a young guy. This angle went all summer long, multiple sellouts. This was Rick Rude's first main event program. He was born on December the 7th, 1958. Passed away April the 20th, 1999 at 40 years old. His debut was in 1982. He retired in 1984. Now, last week, this show went 2 hours, 37 minutes. I'm determined for this show to be over in time, no doubt, but we have a few more videos to go. But real quick, Michael, your thoughts on that great action. And what I liked about it, I will kind of answer my question. It was the production was not smooth at all. It did not look planned, did not look set up. It was the camera shot was bad. Obviously, they missed a lot of it. But to me, that's what sold it, that it didn't look planned. It didn't look plotted out. It didn't look like it was staged. Do you agree with that point, Michael?
The days prior to the handheld, obviously, and I think it did. I agree with you. I think, and I was going to make that point, that the poor production from a TV standpoint made for great production for a wrestling standpoint. I thought that adding to that was Lance Russell's he was just absolutely beyond himself. He just didn't want to say anything because he was just hacked off. And you could tell that he was hacked off. He was hacked off from the fact that Rick Rude snatched the microphone out of his hand, and then that continued. But I'm absolutely thinking that Lance sold that in such a great Lance kind of way that really added to the ambience of that clip. And that clip that's priceless. That's absolutely priceless. My question was, when this was happening, I noticed that Lance, the last couple of videos we've seen, has been without Dave. And was something going on with Dave in '84 that prohibited him from being on TV? Because I think the last 2 or 3 videos we've seen have been Lance only.
Well, I really don't remember. I don't remember Dave being. Now, later in '84, Lance had some health issues, and he was gone a while. Besides the regular scheduled vacations, I do not remember about Dave. I don't remember that at all. We have a couple of videos.
In fact, in '84, just FYI, when Lance had some issues health-wise, I actually came down from Nashville and rode down with Jerry Jarrett and Eddie Marlin. We rode down to those matches, and I would sub in for Lance that at that time. So I remember that distinctly, but I was just surprised. I just wanted to make a comment that Dave has not been on the last few videos. Go ahead, Randy.
Very interesting. Now, this is the video coming up just because of the fact that I'm on it. And as far as my work and doing play-by-play is one of my most favorite things that I've ever done. Rock and Roll Express and the Poffos from the Mid-South Coliseum. Here we go.
Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. Randy Hales at ringside, and we are looking forward to what, in the ring announcements, we called a sensational tag team battle that we're mighty pleased to have right here in Memphis. Rock and Roll Express back in town. Rick Morton and Robert Dixon against Poffo Mania. Randy Savage and Leaping Landy with Angelo Poffo at ringside. Savage, but Robert Dixon comes back on top. Savage there. Look at this action. The Rock and Roll can go. Oh, nice flip one. One count's all he could get. Robert Dixon back up. Quickly takes him down. Tag on Rick Morton. Big double elbow. This team can go. Teamwork. Here comes Lanny. He's taken down. They drop down on him, and Poffo is out of the ring. Well, it's time for the Poffo family to regroup. Savage on the other side. Referee is Jerry Calhoun. The crowd still packing the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. A native of the state of Tennessee, he's from Nashville. Started his wrestling career right here in Memphis. Look at that spectacular entrance of Leaping Lanny. The Poffo family, symbolic of a whole family of tough athletes. Let me tell you something for a flat-out fact. These people, look at Lanny. And a fine move there. Savage comes back in. Watch out for the rock and roll. We're enjoying it. Yes, sir. Savage, after one of the crowds, the referee starts the count. Here comes Lanny back into the ring. And Angelo trying to quiet the crowd down. They're 100% behind Rick and Robert. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Angelo Poffo complaining about something. What? I don't know. Look at this. Look at this. Going to work on the knee or the leg of Lanny. Tag out. Robert comes across the leg from the top rope. Use the rope as leverage, and look at those moves. They go after Randy. Vexing, both of them. Angelo better watch out or he'll be put down. Rock and roll with a countdown. Yeah. Bruising action with championship wrestling in this match. Randy Savage leaps into the ring. Robert Gibson. Angelo comes around, going to distract Rick Morton. Morton will go after him, I am certain. Yes, sir. Sends him down. Angelo Poffo does his job, distract anybody around. Oh my goodness. Look at Lanny go after Robert, but Robert gets out of the way. Here comes Morton. Ricky goes after Randy Savage, puts Leaping Lanny down. Savage is reversed out of the ring. Look out. Angelo sends him in and kicking him at the 6.5-minute mark. The Savage and Poffos getting vicious. They are getting vicious. Oh, big right hand to Morton. Fires him back in the ring. Oh. into the turnbuckle. Oh! Morton hits hard. A boot to the top of the head. Drops down on the back of Morton. Rick taking a tremendous amount of punishment. Elbow. Savage snaps him down. And Morton moves. Rick is badly cut. A tremendous cut on the head of Rick Morton. But Rick, we remember, a tremendous amount of fight. But he's caught by Savage in the corner. Rick with the right hand. But Leaping Lanny with the boot to the midsection. To the turnbuckle and a tag on Savage. Lanny holding the tights as Randy Savage hurls him out. Oh, this is this move by Savage. Oh, my goodness. Morton picked up, back in the ring, trying to get the tag. Missed it, and a tag on Savage's brother, Lanny Poffo. Here comes Angelo.
Going to lead to a beautiful victory. It's stunning.
Angelo Poffo with his brand of commentating. Lanny. Rick Morton moves. Good move on Rick Morton. He made the tag. Yes, sir. Goes after Lanny. Puts down Savage. Right hand to the head. Puts Savage down. Fires him in. Ducks him over. Oh! And a disqualification. Disqualification. 9 minutes of time as the win goes to the Rock and Roll. A disqualification. Look out. Savage is caught as they tried to pile drive Robert Gibson on the concrete floor. Now the brawl's right out as we back up right on the table. Savage has it on the table. What is he doing? He's trying to pile drive him on the table. He's trying to pile drive him on our announcer's desk. Oh my God! Oh my gosh! He broke the table. Rick Morton, as we need some help. Savage, come on, Randy. Randy, this is ridiculous. Right on the... Ring the bell. Let's get this stopped here. I've never seen anything like that. They pile drive Morton on the table, broke the table, now trying to do it again. They run their heads. Get them out of here, Robert. Oh, my goodness. Worried about Rick Morton.
Chaos, Michael St. John with the Rock and Roll Express, Savage and Poffo. To the best of my knowledge, and Frank said this earlier, and I think it's absolutely correct, and those tables, that wooden table at the Mid-South Coliseum, not that easy, not like today's tables, not gimmick tables. That was a hard table, and that was never the intention. It was just a spot. They were getting out of the match with a DQ and getting some heat afterwards. That wasn't talked about. Savage just did it as an angle, and it looked so damn good, they had to go with it and do a little injury angle. A great piece of business there, Michael St. John.
And Randy Savage's weight, his combined weight with Ricky Morton in his arms, he came, and when you saw him come down, you saw him land on that butt of his, and that weight, that 400 pounds of weight coming down on that wood table broke the table. Like you said, it wasn't a gimmicked up table. The thing that impressed me the most about that match, first of all, I think another situation of the name hurting the person, the character, the individual. I think the name Leaping Lanny was weak, and because Lanny Poffo was a damn good wrestler in his own right, and I think the Leaping Lanny thing made him look a little, I don't know. But the thing I loved about that match, and if you go back and look at it, those punches and those kicks in there, every one of them looked 100% real. There was no way you didn't believe they weren't real because of the way they were thrown and the way they were received in the cell afterwards. I mean, that was a hell of a match between four really good professional wrestlers, no matter what era you're in.
We're going to kind of backtrack as we wait for a video to load. Now, a lot of changes from this point of the year in 83 than this point of the year in 84. Now, Bill Dundee was gone, and the Fabulous Ones were gone, and Terry Taylor was gone, and Jim Cornette was gone, and this person was gone, and this person was here. The territory did not take a drop as Randy Savage came in, and Rick Rude came in, and Austin Idol came in full time. So at the time period in February of 1984, we knew we didn't have the Rock and Roll Express, and we didn't know we didn't have Terry Taylor, and we knew we didn't have the Fabulous Ones. All these people, for the territory to survive, was just basically on the strength of Jerry Lawler and the strength of the territory and the creative, whether it was Lawler booking or the last couple of things Jerry Jarrett was booking, and the Rock and Roll Express had come back. It just didn't die, and it might not have been as a record-breaking money year of 1983, but at the same time, it was probably the second biggest year financially in Memphis wrestling. So it was a good year as we're stretching, Michael, to get this video loaded. So help
the fact of the matter is it was a money-making tsunami. When you look at it, Randy, it started with the late 82, the 80, it started the Kaufman thing was the instigator of what made it all hot again. It made wrestling hot as a pistol again. And I'm not so sure that the Kaufman incident, which got worldwide attention, it was on CNN, it was on all the big networks. I mean, everybody picked in and bought into it. I'm not sure that the Lawler Kaufman incident did not spurn the great growth of professional wrestling through the mid 80s, right into the late 80s and into the 90s, where the WWE got, they saw that wave coming, and Vince got, and he rode that wave like a master surfer. And I'm not so sure that one incident that all started with Kaufman and Lawler was not the impetus of making professional wrestling the big, huge, mass appeal sport it later became as the decade went on. I think it was really this match that lit the candle.
I think there's no doubt about it. I think that's absolute excellent point for sure, Michael saying. John, now we said Jerry Jarrett is now booking. Now, this is Jerry Jarrett booking 101, what we're about to see. Also, I think Eddie Gilbert had a lot to do with this creatively as well. This is the first heel turn of Eddie Gilbert. This is the first time Eddie was programmed. Later on in a month or two, his first main event with Jerry Lawler. But this is Eddie Gilbert, not as a tag team wrestler, as a single wrestler. This is the start of that. We watched that video as Tommy Rich is turned on by Eddie Gilbert, and Tommy gets a little blood both ways here. Let's watch the video on Talking Memphis Wrestling on a Tuesday night, January the 24th.
Coming up here, more championship wrestling coming up a little bit later, including our first look at Mark Regan and what should be a tremendous tag team expiration of time main event a little bit later. But we have a presentation coming up for the Tag Team of the Year. This is made by Wrestling Fans International. Now, the voting is done in the spring, and then the presentation is made at the annual convention, and Wrestling Fans International are holding their annual convention this week. And they have the trophies for Tag Team of the Year that they are going to be presenting. Unusual situation this year in that the team that was voted Tag Team of the Year when the voting was cast in the spring are no longer together. But here's Lance with Wrestling Fans International.
Hi, David. Thank you. I want to introduce to all the wrestling fans on Championship Wrestling out there a couple of representatives from that organization. head of the organization now is Pete Letterberg. Pete, delighted to have you here.
It's just a pleasure to be here in Memphis, Lance.
And Howard Baum. Howard, both of you are from Florida, is that correct?
That's exactly right. We're from Miami. Big wrestling fans all our
You get
lives.
back down there, you give Gordon Soley my best,
Exactly,
too, will you?
right.
Okay. You guys are participating in the presentation. We really appreciate you doing it right here. Tag Team of the Year, Tommy Rich, Eddie Gilbert. The fact that they are not currently wrestling together as a tag team has nothing to do with the award and our appreciation of you doing it here, Pete.
Well, of course, you know, Lance, the voting goes on for the whole year, and this encompasses 1984, and they were quite a good team for the whole year up till now.
No question about that.
It's just unfortunate they're not teaming right now, but what can you do? They are the tag team of the year.
Okay, we want to get Eddie and Tommy out here for the presentation of it, and we also want to say that we hope maybe during the year we're going to be able to disseminate a little more information on your organization and all, so more people will have a chance to participate in it.
That would really be great. And
Eddie Gilbert. Okay, we congratulate you. It, of course, is rather an unusual situation, and I don't have to go into that. But there is your trophy as one half of the Tag Team of the Year.
Well, Lance, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the WFIA, thank all the people for giving this to me. It's unfortunate, though, that it looks like you'll probably have to take Tommy's to him because maybe you people out here don't realize it, but Tommy is our international heavyweight champion now. He doesn't come to television anymore to do interviews or wrestle here. He goes all over the world now. Memphis doesn't really mean that much to him anymore. He don't show up here. He's such a big shot now and a big man on the totem pole. And but you know, he's the one that turned his back on me. He's the one that turned his back on these people. And if it's still up to me, there'd be a Rich and Gilbert team. But no, he's really a big shot. But today he couldn't be here because of one reason, because he's still probably running from me from the last time we met, because he's such a chicken and such a coward, brother. That's all that's wrong with him. So I'd like to thank everybody for my, that's the only thing.
Tommy! Tommy! There's a place for that, and it's in the ring. It's not here. Sorry, Pete and Howard, and we thank you for coming here. We're going to take time out, and we're going to be back in just a moment. Oh, yeah, okay. Eddie, you need to get that bleeding stopped. We've got another segment coming up here right now.
Lance, just give me a chance, please. You know, I feel like a fool. I feel like, please, I feel like that maybe I have done something terrible. And I've done something wrong. And maybe Tommy was right when he said that. I feel like I've let everybody down, Tommy, you, these people, all the little kids that ever looked up to Eddie Gilbert, and I've turned their back on them. I was jealous. I was envious because you're the champion. You had the title matches. And Lance, if there's any way to get Tommy out of here, because, and I don't know, I know you could have something to do with this. Let me say this to you. Maybe you can tell Eddie Marlin from now on, there won't be any more matches scheduled between Tommy Rich and myself, because he can win them on forfeit. I will not show up. I'll not wrestle him anymore, because if Tommy's watching these people, this represents that the people of this country and the WFIA voted us Tag Team of the Year. And Tommy, you're just like a brother to me. And it's taken a long time for me to come around to my senses, but I've been a little crazy and I haven't been right. But now I realize it because you beat my brains out here in front of these people and everybody watching. And I've been wrong, Lance.
Well,
I've been wrong, and I can admit it. I'll admit it to everybody here and to you.
It takes a bigger man to do that. And I don't know whether Tommy has any desire to come out here.
Present away all this promotion if they can get Tommy in, because I've been wrong. I've acted stupid. I've come out here. I've said things I shouldn't have. And I've just kind of been in my own world here lately, and I'm sorry. I apologize. And if we can get Tommy on here, I'd like to just tell him this face to face.
Eddie, you need to get that bleeding stopped in there, man.
Tommy, please.
It's
please.
An unfortunate situation, but I appreciate you being man enough to stand up here on television and say it.
You're right. You were right about everything. I haven't been the man that I said I was. You're a better man. You're twice the man I am. You're a former world champion and international champion. And all I'm saying, let's forget it. These trophies mean more to me, and these people mean more to me, and you, as a tag team partner, mean more to me. And let's get back together, and let's be the team we were, and let's have that friendship back that we were, please. Please.
I know it's difficult.
I'm sorry. I was wrong.
You'll be there. In other words, anytime I need you from now on, Eddie Gilbert's going to be there, is what you're telling me.
Yes, I'm telling you. Please. Just please accept my apology. I'm doing this in front of everybody so everybody will know that I'm not ashamed of admitting I was wrong. And I was wrong.
I'm delighted. We'll keep the trophies over here for you. Okay. I don't believe it. Now we got Eddie Gilbert busting Tommy Rich open, and all that stuff he was talking about was just hogwash, trying to catch Tommy unaware. Eddie! So we can... Let's get this guy out. Boy, you deserve anything you get from now on. I'll guarantee you that. Just get out of here. Hey, yeah. Watch him. And I'll tell you, we don't care if you never come back in here.
He won't be able to wrestle.
Yeah, well, just get out of here, Eddie. There's nothing smart about that or anything else. Lousy, low thing to do in there. You can help Tommy back. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, Tommy got waylaid, and they're...
The first thing that I'd like to say is that is Memphis Wrestling. The second thing I want to say is that Michael said earlier, Lance Russell made that deal. There's no doubt. It was a great deal, and everybody did great. You agree with me? As we conclude this show, that was Memphis Wrestling.
Amen. That's a perfect example. Absolutely perfect example. And you're right. Every time I have gotten to where, and I worked with Lance, and I was an honor. It was always an honor for me to work with Lance. I hold him to this day in highest esteem. But I will say this, the more you watch the intricacies of Lance's commentary, the more you know how Lance's style and Dave's made Memphis wrestling. You saw it on TV, you saw it in the flesh, but when you had Lance and Dave there to help you get through as to what was happening, never better, never better.
Final words. We ended the show last week in a sad way. However, we had a great show. We got in everything except one video, but I promised myself I wouldn't go over time today. I just don't have the time. And we'll start off as we conclude 1984 next week in 85, the era of Tom Ernesto booking. Final words real quick, Michael.
Well, I think this was an excellent show, and I think if any show we've had this year or over the time that we've been doing this since I've been here, this one epitomized what Memphis wrestling was all about. And I'm losing my voice, which is a good sign because that means we had a lot to talk about. But the one thing I did want to say is that, you know, when you look at the golden era of Memphis wrestling, we're right in the midst of it. But the one thing that I think Memphis wrestling did so well and continues to do well with the people that still follow it in absentia or maybe being introduced to it for the first time here several decades later is it connected with the audience. It connected with the people of the Mid-South. Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, Birmingham, it all sort of connected. That's the style, the way it's presented, the way it comes off. And today I'm going to end the show with what I started the show with, Randy. There's not a professional wrestling program today that can equal what we're watching on Tuesday nights.
Great, great words. Thank you, Michael. As always, you do a great job. Enjoy going back in the timeline of Memphis wrestling. Want to remind everybody on behalf of Talking Memphis Wrestling, Adam Dunn, Michael St. John, Pat Trammell, Chris Ellis, and myself, we encourage you to support the Pugh family. As all you have to do is go to give.
It's give, send, go. Give, send, go. All run together as one word.
/Pugh Love. Give, send, go.com/Pugh Love. So be sure to check that out. Tomorrow morning, if I'm not snowed in, I'll be on the front row with Bud Roll, 953 theticket.com, or it's locally here, 970 AM or 96.9 or 95.3 FM. Next Monday night, it's the Power Hour, show number 50 of Power Pro Wrestling. Next week, we'll put 1984 to bed, and we will start 1985. This has been fun. A lot of great action. For Michael St. John, I'm Randy Hales. Good night, everybody. See you
Thank you, folks.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.